So check out this unintentional 8s for 8s update out of nowhere here. Kyle, the guy that bought it, has been doing a bunch of things with it, and as you guys know, a lot of the tracks have been closed, so he simply can't race it, even if he wanted to. He is like a fiberglass genius, and he did the hood. He took the hood that came with the car. It looks like a stock hood, but I don't know enough about it whether or not it was. And he put like a bump in the center so that the truck intake and everything would fit under. And it looks odd because it looks like a stock hood, but everything fits. And it has such a strange angle to the cowl that it doesn't necessarily look like a big cowl hood either. So he did an amazing job with that. He put the bumper on. That was making people absolutely nuts. So I just never put it on. I thought it was funny that it had no bumper, and it made people so mad. And then he redid the entire front bumper, and which is interesting. He riveted some stuff in and probably did more glass work and whatever. And to me, I first took a glance at it, and I'm like, man, this looks like a DSM, which is funny because he's a DSM guy, and he has a DSM. So it's interesting that he just forced the DSM stuff onto the Mustang, but it looks great. So he finally had a day where he could take the car out, and not wanting to wreck it or have something crazy happen, he made a pass on 100% wastegate, which is 6 psi. And the funny thing here is I had always wanted to do that, but didn't want to waste the passes in a day with the horrible luck I was having with it, self-inflicted or not. So it's funny to see that it went 1024 at 143 on his first pass on 6 psi. So yeah, it's funny when you have a race car, a chassis that works so well. There's almost no power. I think it made 462 horsepower on wastegate, and it went 10.2 at 143. Jeez. So I have this log of Kyle's pass on wastegate. So this was his 6 psi, 10.2 at 143. And you can see he comes up on two-step here. Barely, or did he just foot brake it? Actually, I didn't ask him. Did he even hit the... Nope, he must have just and then let it go right before the two-step. So you can see RPM never leveled off for him. So he never got to, I think it was set to 3,500. Yeah, he was at 100%. See, the big thing here is the boost controller isn't on at all. So nothing is helping anything out. So that's one of the reasons why it might have been a little bit slow. So then he left on approximately 5 pounds. Well, like right about here, it looks like he let go of it, and then RPM came up. And yeah, this converter is not super happy on that low of a power. It actually drags a little bit. I could show you the dyno plots too. I mean, we have all that stuff. Maybe we'll go over it after the logs quick, just as a refresher of what the combo was capable of. So he left, and where are we here? So he left on, about wastegate, and then started taking off. At 36 here, he was definitely off because it wouldn't have made it to that on the brake. So he short shifted. Obviously, guys, there's a lot of comments you can make here, but I don't think he's ever driven this car on the track or anything more than like some stints down the road. So what? He wants to make sure the drive shaft doesn't come out and the motor doesn't come apart. Deal with it. So also, yep, he just wound it out a little bit. Not being a hero, 5,400. Now that's funny too, how fast it went. It's probably, I think I've said this many times, it's probably a 9-second car on wastegate, which doesn't seem that far off. A 1020 on a 1.6, yeah, you could get a little bit better 60 foot and wind this RPM out a little, and then through the traps at like 5,000-ish. Pretty funny. 6 psi the whole way, 6 psi. It looks like when you make the gear change and the RPM falls, see, this is what we talk about, where significant RPM drop can cause a torque load and you can hurt something. But it looks awful because of these spikes, but it's just because the resolution is so low. 6.1 pounds, 7.2 pounds, 6.3 pounds, 7.2 pounds. Yeah, so it gets loaded when it makes the gear change and the converter falls too far, and it comes up a whole PSI, one whole PSI, and then it settles. So, but yeah, this is why you want to get your RPM up and get your converter working for your horsepower and talk to the right people and everything else. So we'll move on quick to the 18-pound pass. So what he did was he pulled, I have a table that's just outputting raw duty cycle for the launch and the pass, and I think he put 15% everywhere or something like, I don't remember, sorry. But here you can actually see, let's zoom in. This is where he comes up on it, and you can see here it's stopping him at 3,300 here. This is flatlined. He might have lowered the launch RPM too, just didn't. I'm sure he did not want to do a 130-foot wheelie for his first day out. Also, like I said, exercising some humility. He doesn't want to blow the thing up, doesn't want to wreck the thing, doesn't want to smash the oil pan out of it, etc. He just made it pretty. Why does he want to bang it up? Anyway, so he left on 10 pounds. Everything's looking good. And then he comes up here and he rock stars a 7,200 RPM 1-2 shift. Sounded great. Swing that thing out. And then, where are we at? 17 pounds. And what also happened is the belt came off in the burnout box. So you can see belt came off in the burnout box. So when he's on the, where is my battery voltage on here? Let's put it on sensors. Battery. Oh boy, sorry. Play the elevator music. Battery. We're gonna put it in sensors. Oh, it's already in sensors. I must have missed it. Like a total battery, 14 volts. Okay, yeah, so it fell off. So it doesn't look like it fell off in the burnout. It looks like it came off. He didn't know this. He didn't look at the logs. And I had it set up to auto log, so this is how we got this. So yeah, 13. So by the end of first gear, the belt came off. And then we'll go back to here. So, hey, so he did his 7,200 shift, 17 pounds, 18, 17.6, and then 6,700, 2.3. So if we watch here, 72.59. This is where we always stress you want to be over 5,500 on on SBE stuff. You're really pushing hard. You want to always be over 5,500, in my opinion. So a 7,000 to 6,000 drop, really good. You want to be just, I mean, it's drag racing and you have an automatic. You want to be between 6,000 and 7,000. If the power's there and you can sit in between 6,000 and 7,000 the whole pass, it's ideal, obviously. But then also, if that thing falls off, it's just going to drag a little 4.8 down and probably bend a rod. So yeah, here is a 67 to 59. So about a 700 RPM drop on that guy too. And then all the way out here, 6,800. Perfect, awesome. So approximately 18 pounds and approximately 18, 19 degrees here, and at 151. And this coincides perfectly with the dyno, where this thing was making fantastic power on about 18, and we were pushing it pretty hard, and it wanted to quit over 20 pounds, just blowing hot air. So it trapped 151 on 18 pounds after all this time. That little 4.8 still screaming, and it has always had awful oil pressure. And it's like laughable. So where is the oil pressure? It's bad. It always looks awful. So it's one of those things you just Where is oil pressure? Guys, why am I struggling so bad? Other than the fact that it's 3:30 a.m. I saw it on one of the things. Oil, geez, 23. Okay, so 23 pounds on the two-step. 23 pounds. And then it came up to, yeah, 34. 34 at 7,000. Oh, geez. It's always been bad. What can you do? So, anyway. What a car. What a car. So he has a Pistons rods LS1, I believe, or something else ready to go for this thing when it eventually dies, which, man, it's surely going to happen, right? One day. So, and then we talked about him going straight to some giant big boy turbo. Might as well. And I told him he should just skip the 8s and go right to a 790 now, since he's already gone 9.0 this fast. So I'll do a quick, I'll stop this and open up the dyno stuff and get it opened and show you that quick for showing you how much power gets this done. Okay, so rolling the tape here. This is when this is the live dyno video night. If you were watching with Mitch and I and John Martin. Do we have torque on this? Yeah, you know, it's inductive, so sometimes it's noisy, but we do have torque. So I'll turn it off for now. I don't like seeing it. All it honestly matters about getting a car down the track is horsepower over mile an hour in a big turbo auto like this. So this was on 6 PSI on wastegate, made 474 wheel, and wound out easily to 165. And then here we added a little bit of power, you can see. So this is when we were on and we were doing, this is the second engine after the timing chain broke in the engine. Just, yeah, stuff that never happens. When you put it on the internet and you tell people you're going to go fast for a budget, everything that can will happen every time. Build a car normally, no problem. Do this in front of people, it's going to kick you down. So 689 and then 744, and then like I said, this is where it probably makes 700 on 18 pounds, which is phenomenal for that little guy. Little 4.8 smoke show, cheap little beast. So this is where we were pressing on it, changing plugs, doing some other stuff, adding boost, and we did get to 750, but I was like, guys, that's it. Like, look at these substantial gains. This is probably a few pounds. This is a few pounds up to like 18 probably. And then these are like 20, 21, 24. I probably even smashed it with 26. And it's just not, it's picking up like 10 horsepower, nothing. But yeah, it's fascinating to see that he probably made those passes on, let's do 1 and 3. So this was the 10.2 at 143, about 474 rear wheel, no problem. I mean, honestly, if you think about this, from what I know, also, I had a friend's car, 0304 Cobra, made 474 horsepower, stick shift, heavy, in the high 3,000 pound range, still go 10.8s. So it's funny to think where people just have outrageous power numbers on the internet, right? And you look at a 3,000 pound Fox body, people are gonna flip. 3,000 pound SN95, but a Mustang, a Fox chassis, 79 to 03, guys, get realistic. Set up well, at 3,000 pounds, 474 rear wheel through an auto, 1.660 foot went 10.2 at 143. Like I always tell people when they come to the dyno and they have a Fox, standard issue Fox body street car is like 3,300 pounds with a turbo LS and a 3-speed. And if you make 600 rear wheel, which is where most people are easily able to crack out 600 tire, the car will easily go 140 miles an hour. And it's not a bad 60 foot away from a 9. And this highlights that pretty well. 474 rear wheel, 3,000 pounds, so 250-ish, 300 pounds less. And then 474, It was basically a 9-second car. It just has to leave better. So the thing is with that little 4.8, it probably just wants a ton more RPM. Without all the power, you can probably smack it with a bunch of RPM because this car has a 327 rear gear and a 28-inch tire. So it has a 258 first gear, I think is what a 250. It's 250, 151 gear ratios, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of a tall ratio, and there's reasons why I did that. One of them is to make people mad because they think 327 is too long. The other part of it is I've seen a ton of our personal combinations do well with the long gear and a little bit of a looser converter to get the car up and all sorts of other reasons, right? So it's funny to see a car, if you just geared this tighter, it would be a 9-second car on 6 PSI. Unbelievable, right? You basically need no power at all. And this is why people have fairly fast all-motor cars that are geared correctly with like an iron 6.2 in it, making close to this through an auto on motor. But what's neat is you can just bump your power number a tiny bit. It's what's fascinating to me is to see the 6-pound hit go 143. Crazy to me, but I guess it just shows the lightweight and about 500 tire just carries out that mile an hour like crazy. And then what's neat to see is approximately 200 more horsepower. That's what people don't realize. That's why I knew 8s for 8 was capable of doing what it would do. It takes, you know, a whole mess of power to go another 10 miles an hour at 153, 150, 140 miles an hour. It's not too hard to get a light car into the 140 range, but getting that 150 is hard. Getting 160 is hard. Getting into 170s is crazy. So a car that'll throw down a trap like that is making serious power. Like it exponentially gets wilder. But what's interesting to see is it's not, again, I'm just going to reiterate. If you guys have been watching long enough, you know I'm going to babble. So, but yeah, it never stops surprising me learning these things and knowing these things, because I remember being live on the live feed on YouTube and looking at the comments later, people are like, just quit now, dude. It's never going to go that fast. And then we were showing like a chute mount because we were like, we want to be safe, so we're going to bolt a friend's parachute on it. And the guy's like, it's never going 150 miles an hour. You guys are high as a kite. Stupid, blah, blah, blah. And 18 pounds, I think, goes 151 2 years later. So I don't know what else there is to say to you guys about that. These are the facts. I'm awful at making horsepower and building a car. It'll never stay together. Remember that. Also, you need like 1100 horsepower to go 8s for sure. Certainly 470 horsepower won't go a low 10 or even possibly a 9. Literally, it was his first time with this car on the track. Can you imagine that? How much better are you guys if you go to the track a bunch of times? He doesn't even drag race. He doesn't really drag race. He got into this car to learn how to drag race and have fun drag racing. So, yeah, it's wild. So, to do that well, brand new, I don't even know. Honestly, I was telling him about how the shifter works, like so we could pull it onto the trailer. I'm like, oh, have you ever used I asked very innocently, have you ever used one of these shifters? I know it confuses people. A lot of you guys might not understand a drag race style shifter like that has a lockout and a routine for you to change your gears. And it's unlike anything else you've ever used unless you've used it. So I'm like, do you know how to lever the car for reverse correctly? Do you know how to use the reverse lockout pin? Do you know how to? And he's like, no. You know, he looks at me like he's an asshole. And I'm like, this is not common knowledge. It'd be funny to see someone try to steal a car like that and they have no idea how to change. They'd just be ripping. I mean, they would eventually get it into drive. It's not that awful to get into drive, but getting it anywhere else is not that easy. And that's intentional. It's by design. So he did extremely well to do, you know, burnout, line the car up, not look like a total asshole. A car like this will make you look like an asshole very fast. Look at me. So getting the routine together and making everything work, huge props. Kyle did an amazing job on all of that. Driving the car, keeping it straight, everything else. So, and not to mention a chassis like this, Mark is a genius with setup. We know a lot of people who are incredible, and this car wants to drive straight. It wants to, it's a drag car. And when drag cars are set up well, it looks very uninteresting. There's no wasted energy. The car goes forward. The car goes straight. You don't wrestle it. You see videos of people like, this thing will almost drive itself. It would be really neat to set up like a bump shifter that could shift for you. I bet you don't even need to touch a steering wheel. Most cases, and if you watch like any kind of drag race schooling, people they'll yank at the wheel. When they launch, who knows what it is? It's unconscious. It's just it's something built into their brain is like something. They just get worried and they do stuff. A really prime example of this is if you watch Cletus McFarland has videos where he let his friends race Ruby, a mid-8 second. The car just goes, at the time, I know he's done a bunch of upgrades now, but at the time the car was just Swiss clock, mid-8s, whatever. And he was letting people jump in it. And hilariously, I mean, it has a glide and it has a big converter at the time. And you launch it and you go half track and grab high-ish. Like, I don't even know, but it looks like they're going right through the 8th and then boop, high. And what's funny is people that don't know, they launch the car and the RPM comes up and their brain is like, oh, a ton of RPM, I need to shift. They don't understand that's exactly what a converter is supposed to do, is come up, sit in the power band, and sit and sit and sit and make mile an hour and just sit and turn trans fluid into lava. If you didn't understand how that works also, it takes transmission fluid, it makes it molten hot, like just lava, straight red hot iron, and then it spits it out. And then once it's all coupled up, mile an hour comes up, everything else is coming up, RPM will move, bump, that's when you grab high. Especially a glide, it's just the RPM is just screaming the whole time. It's only 2 gears, if you didn't know, so you're just sitting on the converter all the time. Because if you were shifting and that thing was actually coupled well, you would lose a ton of time because it would just be always at extremely low RPM. Anyway, I digress. But it's incredible to see those guys leave off the trans brake and immediately grab high gear in like the 60 foot. And everyone's making fun of them, but their brain is telling them to shift. It's hard to retrain. You watch Garrett, you watch Cletus do it, and it seems so easy and it makes everyone look dumb. It's just the experience, right? He knows that's what he's supposed to do. He knows it's going to go at least half track. You can just cruise control and eat ice cream for the most part. Like if the car's set up right, it does everything all on its own. But anyway, yeah. We'll stop talking. Hope you enjoyed. We'll go over, this is a nice little technical overview of how the car did, how the car does. Someone with not much experience can still take a well set up vehicle like this, go a fast time, blah, 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 blah.